And one last thing that I want to talk about before we go off, a term that has recently uh, gotten kind of famous, the Bazball, especially due to the New Zealand versus the England series. And obviously, Tom Blundell and Daryl Mitchell did really well in the series. But that kind of became irrelevant really quickly because what is the point of scoring 500 runs in a three test match series when someone can just hit you for a 90 ball 136 and uh, get all the limelight, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, so one interesting thing I was thinking about with Bazball that sort of reminded me of the way England played under Bayliss sometimes during his tenure. Particularly that one series in Sri Lanka where England won 2-0, 3-0 in I think it was 2018. Back then they called it total cricket, which is play on total football. And it's the way England played. They were trying to score at 4 runs, 5 runs and over. There was one innings where I think 8 or 9 of England's 10 wickets were falling to the sweep, were bowled or caught or LBW trying to sweep the ball because they were trying to sweep as many balls as they could because that was a very quick way to score. Yeah, Joe Root made a good 100 that series. Uh, Adil Rashid, Moeen Ali, Jack Leach, they were all taking wickets. And I think on Sri Lanka's side, I think Luckmal took 1 wicket out of the 60 or so wicket Sri Lanka took all series, which is kind of funny. But yeah, England played in a similar way on that series, and it worked for them then because, on those types of pitches that they were dealt with on that tour, very low scoring pitches, if you can score very quickly, you're going to get out anyway. So just try and score as many runs as you can, as quickly as you can. But when England went to India pretty soon after that series and they lost 4-0, and they were probably lucky to only lose 4-0, it sort of, blows it out how how effective the game plan really was. Because it worked excellently on low scoring pitches, but on higher scoring pitches, where you're expected to bat for a long time, playing in a way that's very risky to your wicket might not be the game plan. So we'll see how it works against better batting lineups on better pitches. But yeah, it just reminds me a lot of how England went under Bayliss sometimes. And by the end of his tenure, Bayliss was not the most popular coach for a test side. So we'll see if McCullum's honeymoon period lasts a long time or if it's over very, very quickly.
I think we are forgetting one thing here, especially regarding playing really quick, in red ball cricket. Uh, Seems like the whole strategy behind Bazball is since we are right now playing in England and we have seen the Duke's ball kind of stopped moving, let's say around 20-25 over mark. I was assuming maybe that was the plan ultimately, since the even the pitches were of the kind that that had a lot of movement early on and then eased out later on. Seemed like it was kind of a holistic plan. The pitches and the approach kind of was pretty in sync, to say the least. I mean, the pitches seemed like they were the kind of pitches where you can play this kind of cricket. You know, the pitches were holding up for 5 days. They were getting relatively easier to bat on as the time went on. So I guess that is the you can call it, as you said, you call it total cricket, but I'd say it is kind of chaotic cricket from what I see. Because obviously, even in ODIs, we have seen England does really well, when the things are chaotic, especially with the batting. So I guess that is what the point is. I mean, someday you'd see Joe Root scoring at 2 or 3 runs per over. Maybe the opposition team is on back foot, but they are not scared. But suddenly, if you see Johnny Bairstow going at 6 or 7 runs and over, suddenly the opposition team might be more scared, even though there might be more chances of him getting dismissed. But I guess this is the theory of chaos. I guess you create chaos and you'll get results. So, I mean, what do you think is the future of baseball? We have seen it work really well in 2, 3 games right now. What do you think could be the future for it? Maybe in subcontinent, maybe in Australia. How do you think it would come off against teams like they are going to play one game against India and then South Africa? How do you think would it go with them?
I think it'll work on low scoring pitches. I don't think it'll work on high scoring pitches. So for the home summer, I think England will be fine. I think they'll win against India. I think they'll win. I think they'll beat South Africa 2-1. But when they go overseas, I think they'll be fine in South Africa whenever they next tour South Africa, which might be a while. But whenever they go there, if they're still playing Bazball by then, I think they'll be fine in South Africa. I think they'll be fine in Bangladesh. I think they'll be fine in Sri Lanka. I don't think they'll be fine in India. I don't think they'll be fine in Australia. I'm not sure about New Zealand. And that'll depend on the pitches they get. I don't think they'll be fine in Pakistan. And the West Indies, I think they're just cursed to never win the West Indies again.
So, as you said, they might not do that well in Pakistan. So, obviously, Pakistan had rather flat pitches for the Australian series, and now England have come up with this approach. You know, just when they are going to tour Pakistan in near future. So, what do you think must be going in in let's say Pakistan's mind? Do they again want to go with the flat pitches and go for the draws, or do they want to go for the kill with the spinning pitches this time?
I think they would want to go for. Not, I don't want to say they want to go for flat pitches, but flatter pitches than what they're likely to get in England. Like I want them to have pitches that do favor batting, but will start to break down towards the end because I think Pakistan is more equipped to bat longer for those first few days than England is, and then by the end of the match, as it becomes easier to bowl, Pakistan will have a bigger lead, and that should be good enough to see out the game. I just want. So it's not quite. I don't want exact balance, but I want it to be slightly more in favor of batting, but still with enough for the bowlers for the match to end in 5 days. Because I think if the match does go to day 5, I think Pakistan will be in the driver's seat.
So, from what I see, I think Pakistan can try out the whole shootout situation. I mean, not like the Ahmedabad test or something, but I think they have enough pace or spin bowling talent, and even batting talent is nothing to tell. It is obviously right there to outdo England in Pakistani conditions. So from what I see, I think they can try and go for relatively uh, tougher pitches. Maybe pitches that spin a lot. Maybe there can be pitches that actually are really tough for the batters, and maybe it can go in Pakistan's favors, I guess, because even though England's strategy is to hit anything that moves, I guess it would be tough to execute on subcontinental pitches, I guess.
I mean, we can say that, but it worked for them in Sri Lanka. They won 5 tests in a row in Sri Lanka on these types of pitches. So I wouldn't count England out on these types of tracks because it just takes one batter having a great run to make a score that's just too much for Pakistan to make. So when it comes down to it, I think on a pitch that'll last a long time, with some help for the bowlers, I think Pakistan would be a better team than England on those types of tracks, and I think those are the types of tracks Pakistan should aim for.
Okay. Okay, so that is that for today's episode. I'll see you next time.
All right, see ya. Thank you very much. It's nice
Thank
to be
you.
back.
Good night.
Good night.